All right, Councillor Schmidt to close, please.
I'll just point of clarification from administration. These changes align with LAPs that have already been approved, that have already gone through public engagement, where this was done through those multiple years in these cases. These do not require a new LAP. To do what some councillors are suggesting would mean that we would redo these LAPs that already exist.
Yeah, just to clarify, so as part of rezoning for housing, there was two things happening. One was the base district RCG. A second, related but not the same, was the HGO. What the HGO was in areas and local areas, was parts of areas of local area plans where we specifically identified this land use district to happen. When we messaged to the public and to council, when this came forward to council, we had maps showing these corridors saying, these are areas that are HGO. Through our engagement, we always talked about neighborhood connector, and we always said, that's the HGO district. So throughout the entire process, we'd always messaged that those corridors as HGO, the neighborhood connector, were to be HGO. So part of rezoning for housing, again, two different things happening. You have the base district blanket, and then you have this very specific LAP-informed HGO rezoning. This is what that is. This is basically taking a particular land use district or urban form category in the local area plans and rezoning based on that. And again, we did message throughout the entire process that this is HGO, and that's what you see before you today.
Okay, thank you.
If I may ask, sorry to interrupt, if I may ask Mr. Clerk to please put up the map that shows the HGO LAP analysis, please. Mr. Shriver, do you mind explaining what this map shows?
Oh, apologies, clerks. There's a second map that goes with this, which is perfect. Council, the parcels that are the black outline along the dark yellow translate to where the corridors are.
And then that is correct. So you can see it's where that dark yellow, the neighborhood connector, where it overlaps with certain building scales. And you can see that it basically matches one-to-one. Where you don't have those overlaps because it's a different building scale. Here in North Hill, you have things like heritage guidelines that make it so it's not HGO. But it is essentially, we went through that process and we were very clear with the public that these are HGO areas and that's the zoning that's appropriate for it. And so you can see that match up with the urban form map and the HGO map. It was an exact alignment of that.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, I don't know if there's just confusion here, but what's being suggested is already been done. So then, I guess if we want to redo it, let's be honest and say we want to redo the LAPs that already exist, because these already exist, they've already gone through that consultation. So if we're saying we want to reconsult and scrap all the existing LAPs, then let's do that. Let's not say that this isn't the right time because we need to do LAPs. These LAPs are already done. So I'm just going to leave it there because I think that we all need to hit the books and understand where this process is at following this, because clearly there's not a full understanding of where we are and what we've been voting on throughout this entire process. And I think this is symbolic of that, because we can't go back and renegotiate these. They've already been negotiated. It's already been advertised. We just heard from administration that the public engaged on this. And so if you're saying that engagement was wrong and that the public was wrong in that case, then fair enough, let's do that. But if you think that LAPs are good and that the existing LAPs should stand as they are, then that's all this is doing.
Could we, just for the benefit of council members and the public watching, just do a recap of exactly what this motion is in as much plain words as possible?
Sure, I'll take a crack at that, Mayor. So what Councillor Schmidt is proposing is that, again, going to the recommendations, recommendation 2C, not be, or not be approved, I guess, and retain the HGO district in the areas that the LAPs approved, as Mr. Shriver has just described.
Okay, with that, Mr. Clerk, let's please engage the vote.
Councillor Chabot, your vote, please.
Be a no.
Thank you. Councillor Tyers, your vote, please.
No.
And Mayor Farkas, your vote, please.
No.
Thank you. Mayor, all the votes are in.
Thank you. Please display the results. On that, the motion has been defeated with Councillor Schmidt, Kelly, Atkinson, and Yule in favor. All right, any further amendments from you, Councillor Schmidt? All right, I am going to go to Councillor Tyers, and I was aware previously that Councillor Tyers had the intention to do a revision to one of the map schedules. And I know that we had settled section 4, but because it was my omission to call you at the appropriate time, I'm going to acknowledge you to make the case.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the benevolence in you allowing that to happen, if I can use that word. As you guys have heard this week from multiple Bonesians and varsity residents coming to present at this public hearing, the community of Bowness especially has been under extreme pressure from multiple angles, whether it's flooding from the river, failing infrastructure like the Bears Paw South feeder main, which will, by the way, cause 34th Avenue to be ripped open for months, and continue intense densification from blanket rezoning. This community is struggling to keep up. Today in Bowness, there are approximately 60 developmental permits in advertised and circulation are under review. Many of these are multi-unit developments which have been occurring in the area since blanket rezoning came into effect. And additionally, all these developments have come into the community without any guidance of a recent LAP. Or I guess I should just say no LAP. There's nothing. We have heard that there are serious concerns in the area about lack of street parking as a result of the 0.5 parking stalls per unit. And Bowness has limited space due to its geography, and the influx of units has clogged the streets with cars. Even the capacity of residents to evacuate the area in the event of another flood event has been raised. Now, if you look at the table that I'm referring to, I don't know if clerks can bring it up.
We'll find that and pause the clock for just a moment.
Oh, thanks. Okay, you look at this table, it says pre-19 communities with 0.5 parking stalls, and this is defined in the bylaw as pre-1960. Now, if you look at some of these communities, this is clearly being like gerrymandered. Like a lot of these communities don't fall under that category. I believe previous council just put whatever communities they wanted in this table. So I brought this forward to my colleagues, and you'll see in my amendment, there's actually more communities than just Bowness and Varsity. Those are the communities in my area. There have been other councillors that want to add their communities as well for similar reasons, and I'll allow them to speak on behalf of those communities. But those are the reasons why I would like to take Bowness and Varsity off of there, please.
Okay. I believe that's second by Councillor Ward, and I'm going to go over to you, sir.
Yeah, just to speak on this, I mean, we've recognized that parking is one of the biggest issues that people have brought up during this, and as I said, I'm in favor of, you know, let's get stuff built quicker. If we can alleviate the parking concern, then that helps us get stuff done here. Upon reviewing the table, it was my understanding that these were all communities that were built before 1960, which I didn't think my communities would fall into, but doing a bit of research, I mean, Maple Ridge, for example, was established in 1966, so I didn't think it would be part of this, but it's because it was annexed in 1956, before 1960, so thus the confusion. But anyway, that's the short version of that. If you could please support.
Councillor Chabot, please.
Yes, I'm not sure what names are on there, but there's one in particular. So I think I added Malin Heights on there as well, but only because it's one of the communities in Ward 10. That one, I'd be okay with not having that one stand because it was built prior to 1960. the reason I wanted Marlborough included in there, and I tried to propose that initially when it was originally introduced, is that it was approved as a community in 1967, but most of the construction occurred in the 70s in Marlborough. And so for me, it didn't actually fall in line with the pre-1960s sort of intent. So I would like to withdraw Mellon Heights out of that list, just because it is in alignment with the rest of the inner city communities, and it was built prior, in the 60s or prior. But Marlborough, for sure, in my opinion, needs to be included on this list of ones that need to retain that one-to-one. Ultimately, personally, I think all of them should be one-to-one, but for now, insofar as amending the current list, Marlborough for sure needs to stay on there, and Mellon Heights, I think, should be taken off.
So just to be clear, Councillor Chabot, are you looking to amend this amendment by striking the words Mayland Heights from this amendment?
Yes, please. Unless we go to all one-to-one. So for now, I just want to keep it in alignment with the intent of the motion that was approved by council. So that would keep it in line with that.
Give us just a moment to get caught up on that.
We're just crafting that and getting that up. Mayor, it'll just be a moment.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment to the amendment? Seconded by Councillor Tyers. Thank you. Any further debate on the amendment to the amendment? It was relatively self-explanatory. Councillor Atkinson? Yeah.
This is nuts. This whole thing is nuts. Talking about not bacon on the floor of council, and this is what we're doing. We're going into parking requirements in certain communities. Are you kidding me? Not a single Ward 7 community on that list. Not a single Ward 8 community on that list. This is the suburbs trying to land all the density in inner city communities. This is insanity. I cannot believe the just outward, just like not, who cares? And just trying to do it. It's wild. It is absolutely wild. So no to the amendment, no to the original motion. This is bad, bad, bad governance. Bad governance.
All right. On the amendment to the amendment, Councillor Kelly.
You know, I've been listening over the past little bit. Like, how many people said full repeal, no amendments? Holy jeez, we're fully into the amendments now. This is we said that we didn't want to be making sausage on the floor of council, but like this is opening a sausage making factory. This one, I admit, is hitting me like with Councillor Schmidt's amendments. Like they were circulated around yesterday. I got a chance to go. This is the first I've seen this one, and yeah, this is. I will admit, very surprising to me that we're getting into this level of detail when we've had such a conversation up until this point about full repeal, pass it over to the next, and then we'll go and do it. But that apparently is out the window here. No to the amendment, no to the amendment. I'm really surprised that how quickly we're changing on what we had said. I don't know what happened over the dinner break, but yeah, this will be a no for me.
On the amendment to the amendment, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, again, we had the opportunity to eliminate 4 from this entire process. And you're right, the sausage factory is in full form right now. And this strengthens and protects Ward 14 from future development where they do not want it. And that's what I want to do, protect Ward 14 from stuff they do not want. So I would love for you guys to help me protect Ward 14. Thank you.
All right, I'll just briefly enter debate. I fully appreciate the intent behind this. I won't be supporting the amendment to the amendment nor the amendment. I just think we're getting a bit off track from having as pure a repeal as possible. I fully understand the intent of why this is being brought forward, though. All right, Councillor Chabot, to close on your amendment to the amendment.
Closed.
All right, Mr. Clerk, let's please engage the e-vote on the amendment to the amendment, which is to delete the words Mayland Heights from the original amendment.
Councillor Yule on the amendment to the amendment, your vote, please.
Yes.
Councillor Atkinson, thank you. Councillor Chabot, your vote, please.
Yes to my amendment, to the amendment.
And Mayor Farkas, your vote, please.
No.
Mayor Farkas, all the votes are in.
Thanks, please display the result. On the amendment to the amendment, that motion is carried with Councillor Schmidt, Kelly, Dhaliwal, Panagopoulos, Clark, Wyness, and myself opposed. Over to Councillor Schmidt, please, on the amendment as amended.
Yeah, so I'll just repeat what was said. I mean, my amendments died because we said no amendments on the floor. This goes against the spirit of what we're doing. I just want my colleagues to be honest about their opposition to things. Your opposition was not to amendments on the floor. Your opposition was to the spirit of what was on the floor, to the fact that you don't want to see this, because what we have here is an amendment for what you want because it's a priority that you have. Fair enough. Then say that. Don't say it's because you want to somehow protect what the public was expecting. I wasn't expecting this. And you're punishing wards 7 and 8. And if you want to do that, then just say that. Don't parse this in procedure and listening to the public. Be honest about what you're doing here. And what this does is it creates preferential treatment for certain communities. And it leaves other communities out that have taken far more of the pressure over the last 20 years of this development. So yeah, maybe we want to protect Ward 14. Well, Ward 14 has seen 0 RCG amendments. So what are we protecting here? We spent an hour debating another councillor's problem and other councillors' problems with an amendment that wasn't, in their view, in the spirit of what we were doing here today. Well, now look what we're doing. This is extremely frustrating because if you had just been honest, then we could have had an honest discussion, but instead we're playing politics to benefit what you want to see for your wards, and fair enough, but just put it out in the clear. I put mine out in the clear. I knew they were likely going to fail, but I believed in them and I put them here in an honest way, and we're not getting the same treatment in return. So that speaks a lot to me, and I'm going to remember that for a long time.
Thank you, Councillor Schmidt. I'm going to go to Ms.
Sorry, can I have a
Davies.
point of
Murphy,
privilege?
Yes,
Just
Councillor
swore at
Johnson.
me.
Well, point of privilege that I was being laughed at while I was putting forward my debate.
I'm gonna resolve Councillor Johnston's point of privilege first. So, Councillor Johnston, if you please speak.
Yeah, I was about to speak and he said, well, I can't say it out loud, but you can imagine what he said. And I don't think that was appropriate.
I'm not gonna imagine it. I will take it duly noted. Councillor Schmidt, on your point of privilege, please.
Well, to be able to concentrate during my debate while there's laughter. So I apologize for my remark, but I would like to be able to have my debate happen without, commentary contemporaneous to what I'm saying. And so I was frustrated, and so I apologize for that.
And I think, fair enough, I think the video shows the distractions make it very hard for us to be able to provide that commentary. So I think Councillor Johnston duly noted, Councillor Schmidt duly noted, and it's been a long couple weeks here. We're going to be able to get through. So if, and again, it's not the only sidebar conversation that's distracted from folks as they're speaking. So I know Councillor Johnston, when you were doing your close, it was probably frustrating for you when you saw a bunch of sidebar conversations on the other side. So let's all endeavor to continue to treat each other with respect to the extent that we can. I want to go to Ms. Davies Murphy, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to, we just quickly have cross-referenced the communities here. Cedar Brae is not listed in the table, so I would just ask the mover to amend that, please.
All right, so I believe that what's been identified as Cedar Brae is not actually one that's eligible to be deleted, so I believe that's a pretty straightforward clerical correction here, Mr. Clerk. Could we just change what the text was as it was moved so that is legal in bounds?
We'll make that correction to the motion to, in reflection of the fact that the community is not in the bylaw to be amended.
And no issues with that, Councillor Tyers? Yeah, this is just a clerical error. All right, if Councillor Johnston on this, did you want to speak?
Yep. Ward 14, Ward 12 has had density that inner city couldn't even imagine built. We have the largest, one of the largest condo buildings in Bonavista in the entire city. More density than you could ever handle. So you want to bring ideology into everything, but when things don't go your way, you start panicking and name calling and having an issue. Well, I'm sorry, you brought ideology into this, right? I tried to eliminate these amendments. You wouldn't back me up on it. So here we are making sausage on the table. Yes, this protects Ward 14, and I'll come out and say, yes, I want to protect Ward 14. I don't know how more honest I can be about it. This protects future growth in neighborhoods that aren't prepared for it right now. Now you want to talk 20 years from now? Yeah, Ward 14 has a lot of neighborhoods that will be ready for the next step, but right now they are not ready for it. So for me, this helps protect that. And yes, this goes against making amendments on the floor, but we brought ideology into it. Here it is now. So please vote for this.
All right, Councillor Johnson, and I'm not just calling you out specifically on this, but others, really our procedure bylaw shows or calls on us to provide our commentary to the chair, and specifically trying to direct commentary, especially if unwelcome to other members of council. Let's, to the extent that we can, avoid that and stick to the procedure that we've agreed through the bylaw. Councillor Atkinson, please.
We can't be doing this. We can't be doing this. This is not how you do proper planning. This is, if you're just basically looking to make housing more unaffordable, more unattainable from more folks, you can't be doing this. I'll leave it at that. Vote no.
All right, on this, I'll go to Councillor Tyers to please close on the amendment as amended.
Okay, a lot to unpack there. I guess first I'll address the claims that I'm being dishonest. I actually brought this amendment forward to administration at the end of March, where we discussed back and forth what could work, what couldn't, what would potentially happen. I was asked today if I was going to bring it forward. I said, no, you know what, let's leave this until, we're focused on zoning in the future. But then I saw how this unfolded. And Councillor Johnson was correct. We wanted, Section 4 to be completely out of it. This was not what was supposed to be debated. It was not what was supposed to be with the public hearing. I completely disagree with it. But since it's there, well, now it's fair game. Okay, so if you want to call me dishonest for changing my mind after we had a plan, didn't quite work out, I had to pivot, I guess you can call me dishonest. But I did have the intention to bring it forward and to share it with my colleagues. I had a change of heart, I suppose. And after I had spoken with my colleagues, they agreed that they wanted their communities added to it as well. So if you're saying that this is preferential treatment because of the table that was created. If you could actually look at the table and see all those communities and actually say to us that, yes, all those communities are pre-1960, it's gerrymandered, and it's like there's nothing consistent in that table. So if you want to add your communities to my amendment, you're absolutely welcome to. There's no preferential treatment here. I invite all of my colleagues to do that. If they have communities on there that they want to add, you are more than welcome. What we did here during the public hearing is, yes, there were parking issues. And during all this time that we've been debating, I've been talking to my community and asking them what they think about parking. Do you like that at 0.5? And the resounding answer is no, we do not. And so here I am trying to make sure that they have parking one-to-one, so at least they can breathe a little bit in the communities that are just suffocating them right now, to be honest. If you guys have ever driven through Bowness right now, that's the situation. So those are my reasons for why I'm bringing this forward. And like I was saying, anybody is welcome to put their communities on it. And I hope that you support it. Closed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Let's please engage the vote on the amendment as amended.
Mayor Farkas, your vote, please.
No.
Thank you, Mayor Farkas. All the votes are in.
Can you please display the results? On that, the motion has been defeated with only Councillors Ward, Johnston, Jameson, Tyers, Chabot, and McLean in favor. All right. Any further amendments? Oh my gosh, going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, I am going to read the, oh my gosh, I gotta find what the bylaw is called again. All right. The moment has come, my friends. The moment has come. Second reading of bylaw 9P 2026 as amended. Anyone opposed? Councillor Yule is opposed, Councillor Atkinson is opposed, and Councillor Schmidt is opposed.
Could you put that on the screen?
No, these are just voice for the readings of the bylaw. Do we have authorization for third reading of bylaw 9P 2026 as amended? Anyone opposed? All right, hearing none, that authorization is carried unanimously. Third reading of bylaw 9P 2026 as amended. Anyone opposed? Councillors Atkinson, Schmidt, and Yule are opposed, and that is carried. We have a bylaw that's been adopted. Congratulations, Council. We thought the day would never come. All right, at this point, I will look to lights for potential motions arising. Anybody? Going once, going. I knew it was almost too easy. Councillor Panizopoulos.
After that, to be the first. Do you mind bringing up a motion?
We're just bringing it up, Mayor. Would just be a moment.
And I just, I'll give folks a chance to look at it.
I'll give you back your 5 seconds.
I appreciate it. This motion arising is designed to provide council with additional data to guide where and how it makes sense to densify, where land is available, close to services, transit, infrastructure, and amenities. As we head into our discussion of the Calgary Plan in June, one of the most critical decisions this council will make for generations, This motion arising is about collecting data, insights, and analysis as to what the potential could be if we double down and focus density towards, as an example, LAPs, brownfield, surplus land, and transit-oriented development. Based on the information that we get, that this motion arising will provide, we can then transform this data into action through a notice of motion requesting detailed information with respect to what impact would it have to communities if we focus density in nodes and corridors consistent with LAPs and ASPs. What is the impact of property tax with the densification across nodes and corridors and transit-oriented developments? What improvements are required to infrastructure in areas where this incremental densification can take place? And what does density look like in each ward on a road-by-road basis if we focused our densification here? With this information and this data coming into June, we then can have the engagement, we can have the dialogue, we can discuss. This is a data search. This motion arising is about data collection, which will guide council as we review and provide our thoughts and guidance on the critically important Calgary plan this June, a document and a strategy that will inform and guide development in Calgary for generations to come and outlast this council. I hope you can support this data collection request. Thank you.
All right, that's on the table. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Clark. Councillor Johnston to speak to this, please.
Yeah, my question's for admin. Does any of this data already exist? Do we not already have locations already set aside? Like I know Anderson Station had been set aside for development a long time ago. Do you guys believe this will identify anything that hasn't already been identified?
Councillor Johnston, much of this data does exist. I think what this aims to do is use that data to have an informed discussion about where council wishes the Calgary plan to go.
And this helps that?
I believe so.
And this couldn't be done without a motion arising? We couldn't have had this conversation and information collected outside of direction from council?
I think this is a little bit more directed or targeted than perhaps what administration was initially considering for the June 16th strategic session.
What part would be more directed?
Presenting some of the data in a way that may inform policy changes.
Can you think of what that data would be that you don't already have? That this will direct you to find more data? I'm just curious if...
I think we would use the data that we have. There isn't sufficient time necessarily to go out and collect more data. We can't do studies. We would need to compile existing sources into information for council to consider.
You have an estimate of how much this will cost, if anything?
It would be done within our existing budget.
Right, okay.
I think Jim Hamilton would like to jump in.
Sure.
Well, let's turn off the fun presenter mics. Does that work?
Oh, there we go. So Councillor Johnston, further to what Director Davies-Murphy was saying, and in the motion arising, we've pulled from, or it's pulling from the notice of motion that was just approved for June 16th. So as Director Davies-Murphy said, talking about housing and where we grow specifically around that is one of the tangible examples. So it's just bringing this to that discussion. And that's the strategic discussion that we've been talking about, rather than having that here on the floor of this council during this public hearing, is having that during the June 16th strat session.
Sorry, and I guess I maybe misunderstood the Calgary plan. I just thought the Calgary plan would have included all of this.
So we have a draft Calgary plan. The idea in June 16th is to share that with council, show you where we are with respect to engagement, get a pulse check from council as to whether or not the Calgary plan's in the right direction. And then the intent would be, if we are, go out and engage in September with the intent of bringing the Calgary plan in January. Given this discussion here in this public hearing, we know this council wants to talk about where we grow, where we put housing, where we increase density. And so this would be one of the tangible examples, talking about housing at that session.
Right, and these will all be suggestions from administration, nothing concrete, nothing that's going to be written in stone. It'll just be written.
Councillor Pantasopoulos is asking us to use this as an example of what we're talking about so that we can share with council what policies are in the Calgary plan and how that would show up on the ground.
Okay, so this is fact-finding mission presented to council after. So I agree with this. I think we should support this going forward. It could be part of the solution on finding better locations for housing, finding more affordable units out there in the right places at the right time. So I agree with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chabot, please.
I think it's pretty much been asked and answered. You can do it within existing resources, does not require anything that's inconsequential in nature, and hence the motion arising, because that's sort of the criteria, right? Under $2,000, et cetera.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks. No further questions.
Councillor Kelly, please.
Yeah, I can get behind this. I think it makes a ton of sense. The only one bit that I just want to outline for us all here is that this will not negate the need for local area planning. It supplements that from this side. So hopefully if any of the public are listening to this, this is not in any way, and feel free, Councillor Pantasopoulos, through the chair, to speak to this in your close. This is not in any way meant to supplant public input. This is about using, if public input and local area planning is all about local expertise, this is about civic expertise, so that we have all that data, we have that knowledge, and then as we come forward to that June meeting, we can be a lot more thoughtful about what it is that we may plan to do as we move towards the budget and the eventual passing of the items within the city building program. So yeah, happy to support this. Thank you very much for bringing it forward.
All right, back to Councillor Pantasopoulos, please.
So much. One of the last speakers we had was a gentleman that spoke about Planet Calgary, a report in 2009. I think actually somebody administration mentioned how it was an upgrade in 2020. And the word in there, a couple lines that said very clearly that, to quote it, this was in 2009. And the reason we need this data now and make a decision, are we going to do it or not? And I quote the 2009. Most of the redevelopment is contained in mixed-use, higher-density nodes and corridors located in strategic areas throughout the city. These nodes and corridors are linked through more comprehensive primary transit networks. In 2009, the will of council was, let's investigate it and develop it. We never executed. Questions asked about development, we didn't execute. This is what we want to do. 2009, we wanted to do it. This is our chance. We get the data, we do the analysis, we make notice of motions to instruct administration coming into the January, February, March as we look at the bylaw. It's getting that data to understand and quantify where exactly we can build, what we have. You've heard me talk about Ward 6 about donut holes. This is finding the donut hole in every single community in Calgary. Where can we build? What makes sense? Where is the infrastructure? A council of prior, 2009, wanted the same. A council in 2020 said the same. I hope the council in 2026 can say the same as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm closed.
All right, let's engage the vote, please, Mr. Clerk.
Mayor Farkas, your vote, please.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Farkas, all the votes are in.
Thank you. Please display the results. And that motion is carried unanimously, 15-0. While I'm with you, Councillor Pantasopoulos, any other motions arising? All right, Councillor Chabot, please.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this morning when I did my, was it this morning or this afternoon? When I did my motions, that I was going to do motions arising, and I believe Councillor Atkinson is prepared to support it. It basically looks at modeling some of the recommendations in the amendments that Councillor Wyness had put forward, and create a report to report back on whether or not any of those things can be applied. I think it can be more proactive on at least one of them, and specifically in regards to the density modifier, I believe is the one that we're looking at modeling out as to whether or not the industry can make it work. but all of the amendments that are being proposed that did not get included in my amendment, the motion arising, which I believe clerks has, is intended to direct administration to undertake some investigations on modeling out some of those recommendations. So testing engagement through zoning bylaw project, remaining RCG rules as mentioned, A through J, as well as L, which is the front yard setback, which I thought maybe should have been incorporated into my amendments to start with, but at least looking at how and whether or not to reapply that back into the rules and to report back on the July 21st public hearing on whether or not those work. And hopefully council can get behind this so that we can look at whether or not we should implement it, or at least have the opportunity to do a gut check on them.
All right, do we have a seconder? Second by Councillor Atkinson.
Trying to address any issues in my close.
All right, seeing no discussion, back to you, Councillor Chabot.
Closed.
Mr. Clerk, let's please engage the vote.
Councillor Jamieson, your vote, please. Oh, thank you. Mayor Farkas, your vote, please.
Yes.
Mayor Farkas, all the votes are in.
Thank you. Please display the results. And that motion is carried 15-0. So we got amendments for amendments, and we got motions arising for motions arising. Back to you, Councillor Chabot, please.
This other one is one that we discussed today in regards to what happens if somebody appeals their application or appeals an application to the SDAB, and whether or not, if it gets overturned, what happens with the land use. And so if it gets overturned, the way it's currently structured, it would still retain its RCG designation. This is to give administration direction to revert the land use back to what it was prior to August 2024. In other words, essentially in alignment with the current bylaw, now that we've given it 3 readings, but it is referring it back to that, but with an end date. The 4th of August. If your appeal has not been concluded, then you know what, it's you're out of luck. It's going to retain its designation, so anything can be concluded prior to August 4th. If it gets overturned, then it would resort back to RC1. Otherwise, it retains its RCG. We have to have an end date. The reason that August 4th was picked in the first place for implementation is because we expected that most applications would have been concluded, including the appeals at SDAB. That may not be the case, but we can't control that. We can't continue on in perpetuity, and that's why I put August the 4th to be brought back Q4 2026 with those amendments to make those land use changes for any of those that were successful in their appeal at SDAB. So I'm not sure if I got a seconder for that, but Councillor.
All right, Councillor Kelly has seconded that.
Thanks. That's it for me for my open.
Anyone else on this?
Yeah, if I could just jump in real quick. Yeah, this has to be done. This is, we heard from a few folks, both here and then in my office as well via email and phone call, that we need to put an end to this at some point, and SDAB is kind of this nebulous bit in terms of it. Just a question for administration, because I know we were talking about this earlier on, that we may need to do this a couple of times to catch them all up. Can you maybe just speak to that a little bit for us?
Only need to bring this back one more additional time. So once August 4th, 2026 has elapsed, administration will prepare an amendment to respond to this motion for the successful overturns at the board. It does require another public hearing, but just for those ones to be reverted back to what is, I guess, now part of the repeal that's been approved.
Perfect. That feels like a pretty simple response. So appreciate you bringing this forward, Councillor Chabot.
All right, Councillor Atkinson, please.
Is there any concern from administration that this will cause a rush on SDAB?
I can't speak on behalf of the board or on their procedures or how they decide to run things. What I do know is that, as I had mentioned this morning during questions of administration, the board is already booking into some merit hearings into August already. So any rush that occurs is outside of administration's control. What I can say is that we are actively working with the board to make sure that the development authority is available to support them in any way we can to make sure that they're running as efficiently as they can. But we have no control over their timelines.
So largely this would basically be only applications that are currently already filed with SDAB. Like if someone filed an SDAB appeal tomorrow, it likely is not falling within the timeline that that this would cover.
Short of any decisions in terms of their operations, which is, again, completely outside of administration's control, say, for example, they decide to increase capacity in terms of the number of meetings,
Right.
then generally that statement is correct, but I can't guarantee anything.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, Councillor Chabot, please.
Yeah, no, it's, the reason I put an end date on it is because I didn't want this to happen, actually, for folks to come up with a rash of applications to appeal it, just to delay it, to then potentially have it overturned. This is a very finite timeline, so I think it's pretty reasonable, and hope you can support it.
All right, Mr. Clerk, let's please engage the vote.
On the motion arising, Councillor Jamieson? Yes. On the motion arising, Councillor Tyers, your vote, please. Oh, thank you. And Mayor Farkas, your vote, please.
Yes.
Mayor Farkas, all the votes are in.
Thank you. Please display the results. On that, the motion is carried unanimously, 15-0. Councillor Schmidt, please, on motions rising.
Yes, the sequel to Backyard Suites. So this is a motion arising because it would require a public hearing when we return on July 21st. Given that the first one did not pass, I think this takes on a slightly different effect and gravity, but it's split into two separate parts here with the intention that if this is approved, following the public hearing on July 21st, they could be voted on separately if there's an issue with one or the other. But essentially what it does is changes the use of secondary suites and backyard suites for low-density residential districts, so again, singles and semis, to make them permitted, going back to what we heard during the public hearing, that there's a lot of prohibited aspects for individual homeowners when it comes to their ability to add on these types of amenities to their own properties. So all this would simply do is say, yes, we can have a public hearing on this to make them permitted uses. And then we would hear from the public around whether or not they're comfortable with that. If we don't want to go through that process, fair enough, but this is not happening today. This is a suggestion to be added to the public hearing that has to happen on July 21st regardless. So would hope there's potentially some support on this. Again, if you're fine with one and not the other, that's why the motion was written this way, because you can vote on each of them separately. And sorry, to be clear, when it comes to the public hearing, for now, we're voting on sending both to the public hearing, But at the public hearing, the motion is written in such a way that they can be voted on separately.
All right, I'm gonna say that, seconded by Councilor Clark. All right, just for clarity on my purposes, does this require advertising for another citywide public hearing?
Yes, Mayor.
So to further clarify, there'd be, right away from this, we'd get to advertising that, sending letters. Approximately how many parcels would be impacted, or how many affected landowners?
So if I could
Mayor,
ask,
this is a general rule change, and so it's not changes to specific parcels. So letters would not be sent to individual residents. This would be general advertising, not notification to homeowners, but
Yeah, so
general
it's just
advertising.
it's just a change to what's allowable within the existing use, and it's not a change of use.
That is correct.
And do you have a sense of why one would require the other? Or why this wouldn't necessarily have the same type of notice provision?
I'll ask Mr. Lee to answer that, please.
That council just passed. The reason is that notification letters are only sent for redesignations, land use redesignations, and this is also a function of why administration had recommended the passing of the electronic notification bylaw, because more than 500 parcels were affected by the repeal. This is just a general amendment to the zoning bylaw or to the land use bylaw, and so it does not require the letters that would be sent when a specific parcel is being affected by a redesignation or getting a new district or new zone. So it's the notification requirements are different. I can't provide the philosophical reasons for that. That's just our own requirements through our notification bylaw, as well as the MGA requirements pertaining to land use redesignations.
Can you give me a sense of how you would promote this or otherwise engage the public to know that this was going on?
So we would advertise this through our regular channels and on calgary.ca, through the Federation of Calgary Communities, and they would distribute that to their members. And those would be our typical channels. If council wishes us to do a more broad advertisement, we certainly could do that as well.
And do you have a sense of the cost? Like, I know that motions arising we have somewhat of a limit in terms of what's allowable for that. And is it going to be under, Mr. Clerk, I believe it was 2,500, or that may have been the amount prior to adjustment of inflation when I was around the last time?
For motions arising, the test in the procedure bylaw is just that the required administrative effort to respond to the motion arising is inconsequential. That's set out in Section 119, Sub 2 of the procedure bylaw. For the amount of money, you may be thinking of administrative inquiries, which have a monetary amount associated with them.
Yeah, colleagues, to be clear, I did vote for the previous one, but I'm challenged with the prospect that we're going to spend an inconsequential amount of effort to let Calgarians know about a relatively broad change. So my preference here would be to go through this with a notice motion and have some type of engagement or budget associated with letting Calgarians know about this, so that, again, to the point about largely why we're here with repeal in the first place, was to try to help build and restore trust, kind of cultivate the confidence in the governance and the decisions that we're making. And I certainly, based on what I heard through the public hearing, would not be that challenged to support suites and or the basement suites and the backyard suites at the same time. But I'm not sure that this is the way to go about it, because based on the rules, administration is going to spend only an inconsequential amount of effort and resources to let Calgarians know about a major change. And I think the confidence in us is somewhat bruised at this point about any type of thing that could be characterized as mass rezoning. So a little bit of caution on my end. Yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
If I may, we will be undertaking advertising for the July 21st public hearing already, and so this could be added into that effort. as another line item, just in terms of the cost. It wouldn't be additional cost from what we're already doing to advertise that, those proposed bylaw changes.
Okay, so that's my thought. I'm open to persuasion on this one, so lots of lights here. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you. Yes, I also obviously seconded the first iteration of this, and I'm happy to support it again. When I think about every single one of the communities in Ward 9 and all the conversations that have been had that led me to voting to repeal blanket rezoning this afternoon, every one of these communities would benefit from this type of housing strategy. This would be an appropriate next step. It's not a three-step leap into the future of redevelopment in these communities. This is a natural next step that we should at least explore. So I'm very glad to support it. And see, you know, I mean, and yes, great, we've repealed, but for goodness sakes, be brave. This is a conversation to be had at a later date, as we've said over and over and over again. So meet us in that. Agree to have that conversation at a later date. That's the request. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chabot, please.
I'm a bit confused about this motion because I thought in my absence that council had voted to make secondary basement suites as permitted use in all low-density residential districts.
I believe the 2018 notice of motion was discretionary.
Basement suites,
Believe so, yeah.
discretionary. But citywide,
The question is are secondary suites permitted or discretionary across the city?
basement suites specifically.
It varies across districts. So in RC2, for example, a basement suite is a permitted use. In RC1, it's discretionary.
Okay. So this is to bring RC1s in alignment with RC2s?
I would say this motion would create alignment across the entire city in terms of secondary suites and backyard suites being a permitted use.
In low-density residential, whether it's RC1 or RC2 or R1 or R2.
Correct.
But currently RC2 is listed as permitted for basement.
Correct, and a backyard suite is discretionary.
Yeah, in all land uses. This is not to add and, though. This is still looking at or, but going from discretionary to permitted.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston.
Permitted use, just to clarify, would eliminate the need for a public hearing, right? No?
There is, sorry, in terms of like on an application basis for a secondary suite, or this change, like the motion that we're discussing?
Be on case by case, the permitted use?
So this motion is looking at development permits
Right.
and the requirement for one, and those would not be before council, no.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. That's it.
Thanks. Councillor McLean, please.
Thanks, Mayor. Just, I was thinking the same thing, Councillor Chabot, that I thought this is pretty prevalently widespread. R1, R2 are permitted to have a basement suite or backyard suite. So just to make sure everybody is clear on on permitted, I mean, nothing's prohibiting anybody from putting forth a, asking for a development permit for a basement suite right now.
Sorry, Councillor, could you repeat that?
Yeah, if you're in a single-family dwelling and you wanted a basement suite, that's allowed, but it's permitted, so they just have to go.
Based on your district?
Yeah.
It may be permitted.
So what I'm saying, and what I think is, most homes can already.
In one way or the other, correct.
One way or the other, you can get this. Just by making it, like the mayor has suggested, blanketed, because in the past you used to put a newspaper, it'd be in the newspaper, or they'd put it on the TV, or there's so many different ways of advertising, but now if it goes on the internet, even a lot of, that doesn't capture everybody. Or you put it on our city webpage, that doesn't seem to capture everybody. I think what this is attempting to do is kind of a blanket change that people will maybe think, why are you doing this now? Because if you really want to get yourself a basement suite, it isn't that hard. I think we're allowing that. If this makes it sound like there's something that, again, if we're going to make a broad wholesale change without really engaging the public on it, I think that's better suited for a notice of motion or a future council date, not as a motion arising onto what we're doing right now. Because again, it seems more like a blanket approach, that's something, trying to solve something that's not really even a problem, that could be perceived as us trying to add a bunch of density on a MA instead of doing it through the proper channels. So now that I'm against basement suites, but again, you can still apply to get one or a backyard suite. But just for those reasons, I'm going to vote no.
Thank you. Councillor Brennazopoulos, please.
We're kind of the top for land use, the R1, et cetera. When is it permitted and when is it discretionary?
So in simplest terms, RC1, R1, R1N, if you see that one suffix, I suppose it is, secondary suite, backyard suite are discretionary. If you see that two suffix, so R2, R2, secondary suite is a permitted use, and then backyard suite, of course, is discretionary.
And fundamentally, it would still be, whether it's permitted or discretionary, would be advertised on DMAP, not advertised, but placed on DMAP, or I'm just thinking, what notice to the neighbor, a permitted versus discretionary?
Well, if it's a permitted use, secondary suite, those have been exempt from a development permit since, I think, 2018, and those proceed directly to building permit. In the case of a backyard suite, that would require a discretionary development permit, and I believe that would appear on DMAP.
It would appear on DMAP. So permitted use, anything that is a permitted use, we would still notify the neighbor with a letter, but it is just a notification. The permitted use, if it meets all of the rules, it must go to approval. It's similar to what the province was saying on the automatic yes. Permitted use is that automatic yes.
Follow the rules. Maybe just picking up from the mayor's, the advertising for the July 21st, and if we piggybacked off that, which I think it did, what advertising, maybe I told the mayor was sort of nominal, but you seem to imply it was a little more, like, so if it was sort of to use the word and, or if we on the 21st, what notice would be provided to Calgarians for that?
So the advertising, there's a difference between notification and advertising. Notification is when your individual parcel is being changed. And so that is a notification to the landowner. Advertising is simply that we advertise that there is a bylaw amendment, and that is typically done on calgary.ca. And we have timing of how far in advance of the public hearing those advertisements are posted.
Yeah, I think just my thoughts, hey, I said earlier, I think when there was the 8-7 vote, I support this, not right now. This allows us some time. This allows us to debate it and discuss it at the public hearing, hear from Calgarians, and get a perspective, and gives us 3-4 months. That's why it's a notice arising. So I'm going to support this because it gets us some information, allows us to engage with Calgarians, and we come on the 21st. If we like it, great. If we don't, then we vote it down. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Atkinson, please.
Yeah, we just heard through the public hearing the costs that is associated potentially with any application. The paper house was talked about many times, and ways that we can increase affordability. I think we should be looking at those things. This is not a vote right now to make this happen. This is a vote to hear from Calgarians and to then make a decision on July 21st, whether or not this should go forward. So what you're voting on today is just, should we hear from Calgarians about their desire to maybe have this as a permitted use? And I think when we just took 68% of our land supply and turned it into stuff that now requires an application instead of it being permitted use, I think it is definitely on this council to be at least exploring this. Whether or not you decide for it in the end, that's going to be based on what you hear. But I think to not pursue this and actually open this up to the public to sort of have that discussion, it's not the right thing to do after what we just did with repeal.
All right, Councillor Kelly, please.
I don't know how I actually feel about this, but that's what a public hearing's for. Let's hear what people have to say about it. We've just been through a pretty long public hearing here on this, and I definitely saw the value in it and appreciated everybody coming and sharing their thoughts on it. Hearing from Calgarians on an issue that's not going to cost us anything to hear them, I mean, this seems like a no-brainer to me. Sounds good. Let's do it.
I'll just insert for debate. Yeah, I'm happy to support this. I think this is an idea, to your point, Councillor Atkinson, that we heard for the valuable for future exploration. So, this is a vote to hear from folks. We're amenable to persuasion. We're not locked into making this change. We're doing this the proper way. And then certainly I'd like to see, obviously I can't volunteer y'all to do it, but certainly if we're, as individual council members, I think we can augment the awareness around this as an issue and let people know that it's going on, even if there may not be an envelope in everybody's mailboxes. And certainly when I look at, say, even like secondary suites as a permitted use, zero bearing on impact on neighbors generally, what happens inside your house, and the fact that we're still potentially in a realm where we're micromanaging those things. Of course, I'm open to persuasion, but I think it's kind of wild to me that really non-invasive types of housing can be provided as secondary suites. I'm a little bit more reluctant on the backyard suites, because then you're getting into sight lines, you're getting into shadowing, massing, other potential external impacts. But certainly I'd be very happy to hear from Calgarians on at least the secondary suites being a permitted use. So again, similar to the points previously, I see this as just continuing to hear from Calgarians, and we proved the value the previous 3 weeks in terms of the public hearing. Continue to want to hear from Calgarians and what their ideas may be. So happy to support that, and over to Councillor Schmidt to close.
Thank you. And yes, the intention here was to tie it to the July public hearing, which is already happening. And by proposing to switch to permitted use, we're removing red tape. Even today, we've heard debate around making it easier to build, making it faster to build when it comes to the permitting and the parts of development that happen outside of land use. So what better way to do that than permitted use? Permitted use removes red tape. You follow the rules, it gets built. You don't follow the rules, it doesn't get built. Doesn't get much more clear than that. And especially, again, when we're discussing a type of use that benefits people who already live in the home and is happening within their yard, that's not changing the land use. All it's doing is it's making it much more clear for them and for all Calgarians, because the rules are the rules. And you follow them, and it gets done. You don't follow them, it doesn't get done. Red tape removed, clarity, and removes prohibitive costs from people who just want to add a basement suite or a backyard suite. So we'll hear from Calgarians in July if this happens, but it's not changing the way that we can do these things. It's just changing what happens behind the scenes.
All right, let's engage the vote, please, Mr. Clerk.
Mayor Farkas, thank you. Mayor Farkas, all the votes are in.
Thank you. Please display the results. On that, the motion is carried with Councillors Johnston, McLean, Chabot, Tyers, and Jameson opposed. Anything else from you, Councillor Schmidt? Any other motions arising? All right, I believe that we're nearing the end, proverbially. Mr. Clerk, are there any administrative inquiries? All right, I thought sorry, Councillor Ward?
I just wanted to acknowledge the clerk's team for tolerating this for so
Let's
many
do that.
days.
Yes, please, please rise and acknowledge our amazing colleagues in city administration and city clerks. And could we get a shout out to Dave and George too? Yeah. Thank you so much for the folks behind the screens, and I don't know what the name of the person is who transcribes, but again, just typing furiously to keep our proceedings accessible. Thank you for that, Councillor Ward. And with that, Councillor Chabot, request to speak.
Yeah, I think it's only fair to thank administration as well for working with members of council on making these amendments and motions arising. So big shout out to administration as well. Thank you so much for your work. And on that note, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right, that's been moved by Councillor Chabot, seconded by Councillor Kelly. On that, are we agreed? Any opposed? No. All right, that's carried. See you soon.